Welcome, everybody, to the Belt Barber podcast, the first and only podcast about entrepreneurship for barbers and beauty professionals. Guys, my name is Tic Invictus. I'm your host. Can you guys follow me on Instagram, Tic Invictus? And I have a special guest here. We're going to be talking about leadership, and I have someone expert in this aspect. So I have here Mr. Ralph. Mr. Ralph, can you introduce yourself? And I need to hear your story. I need to understand about your journey and what you do. Can you explain to us?
First of all, thank you for having me here. Yes, my name is Ralph Campbell. I've heard so much about you, so this is exciting to finally meet the team. Who am I? Well, I grew up in Key West, Florida. And for your viewers, Key West is a small island, 4 by 2 miles long. And I grew up on an island that was full of diversity. And so I learned about differences. So when we talk about diversity, I call that differences. I learned about all the unique differences growing up in.
For who live in the north in a cold, so Key West is a paradise.
Yes, sunny beaches and scuba diving and really, really great people. So I grew up in Key West, Florida. That's where I'm from. My mother was really, really big on, and we're going to talk about that today, big on leadership and big about growing your mind. And really, I've been intrigued about human behavior and how to be the best version of yourself since I was really, really young.
Wow. What you do? What is your background? You were born in Key West, but what about your parents? They were born in the United States?
Yes, my mom was a social worker, and my father was a marine biologist.
Wow.
So he taught kids science on the water as a marine biologist, and really that's the background of my parents.
Wow. So what you do for a living, Mr. Ralph?
Well, I'm what you call an executive coach. Now, that's a very broad word these days because if you go online, it seems to be everybody's a coach. So I want to give it a little context. I coach people from getting to where they are to where they want to be. And so one of the things I do as a coach is I work with people creating extraordinary futures. So whatever that is. I work with people discovering their blind spots, really what gets them up in the morning, what has them be stuck at times, and then exploring this, what we call this extraordinary future. So I have the best job in the world. I get to meet with entrepreneurs, meet with people that are young, old, but they have one thing in common. They want to get better.
And how did you become a coach? How did you end up doing this work that you do today?
Great question. I spent many years in another industry, and I managed a lot of people. And one of the things that was a big pet peeve to me was how people were treated. I spent a lot of years, early years, and I watched and I observed people were treated as objects, right? They were means to an end. And I said, if I ever get the opportunity to lead people, I want to treat people as people and treat people with dignity, our inherent value and worth. And so about 22 years ago, I took the risk. I jumped off the cliff. I got out of corporate America, and I wanted to dedicate my life to serving people. And the best profession at that time, and still is to be a coach, where you actually get to invest in people and change the world. And so I'm about changing the world.
Wow. To change the world, we should start changing ourselves and people, right? Do you have like a physical business? How do you go to people? How's that works?
Yeah, with COVID, of course, everybody was inside like you. And so I do it both ways. I do a lot of traveling. Matter of fact, today I was working with a client, and so I travel throughout the state of Florida, mainly in the Tri-County area, Miami-Dade, and Broward. But I also do some traveling in the 50 states. And then I do a lot of my work, of course, on Zoom and Teams and the other social platforms.
You not only work with business owners, right? With everybody, right?
With everybody. I work with athletes. I work with speakers. I work with people that own barbershops.
I was about to ask that. But what about barbers in specific, as an individual? Do you ever work with a barber?
I've never actually coached a barber, but I have a lot of friends that are barbers. So I guess indirectly as friends and being a mentor to young men who ran a barbershop in Key West. My good friend ran a barbershop when I was young.
Wow, amazing. What is the definition of leadership in your perspective? Because I understand that in my side, the way I think, my perspective is uh, leadership is extract the best from our team, from the people that surround us. And you can be leader uh, if those two and more people, right? Person. You can be leader at your house. You can be leader at your company. You can be leader at your church, your community. So what is the definition of leadership for you?
Yeah, leadership has a very, very broad definition for many people. So thank you explaining your context. To me, leadership is one word. So I keep it really, really simple. And this has come through trial and error of me being an inquiry. We talked about it begins with us first. So to me, leadership equals relationship. That's it.
Amazing.
One word. Leadership equals relationship. And if you can create deep relationships where there's value added on both sides and it's based on a set of values that the two people have aligned and in common and live out of and speak out of, you are going to have leadership at its largest level.
I have a question for you regarding leadership. So I agree 100% with your definition of what leadership is. It's building this strong relationship with people. Why it's so much easier for you to develop these relationships with, let's say, friends or what I mean by that is like why it's easier to do that with people that you don't work together with? Because why I'm asking that? Because when you're in a position where you're leader of a team, you own the business. So basically you're the boss. The ugly word, right? Boss. Why it's more difficult to do that when you have a team that works for you instead of like me and you being friends? I can be a leader. You can see me as a leader depending on our relationship. Why when we're talking about business and you have employees, it's a little more difficult?
It is because human beings we have these built-in biases, and so a bias is this idea that we favor things or we don't favor things, right? And so when I don't really have a deep relationship with you, I don't really have that strong of a bias about the things I like and dislike in life. But when I work for you, it seems to trigger these biases we have, right? And then all of the good, the ugly, and all the stuff that we were taught, that we have come to believe starts to pop up. And that makes it really, really challenging because in our culture, the boss is perceived as X. And depending on whatever your previous experience, you bring that unconsciously to this new relationships. And so just imagine every time you're employing new people, they're bringing, we call it baggage, I call it luggage. They're bringing that from the last 2, 3, 4 dozen relationships, and you don't know that. And most of the time, either do they.
Wow.
Wow.
That answered my question completely.
I think I'm going to pinpoint something that she says that is what I see with our team is because when we come and talk to you as an entrepreneur, as a coach, and other business owner, they kind of understand more us when we come to talk to our team. They look at us as a boss, and it's kind of you have to measure your words. You need to understand them more before we throw a word, impose something. So how how can you help me with that? Like, what can you say? Why you are trying to not impose?
I think when you're trying to get the best of them, maybe we have a different mindset, we have a different way of thinking, of talking, and sometimes we're perceived differently. Or we mean something, but they understand something different.
Because it comes from the boss, it comes from the person that owns the place. So.
Yeah, it seems like they perceive different than if I'm talking to a friend, hey, you should change your diet, man. This is bad for you. But if you tell your employee, hey, man, you're not supposed to leave your station disorganized and you're supposed to sanitize your tools, it sounds different because you're the boss. It sounds like I'm ordering you, go and do it, even if you don't say it that way. So how can we improve the not only us, right? Every business owner struggle with that.
Struggle with the same thing.
How can we make it better?
That's what I get hired for. That's the $1 million question. So In basketball, one of the most famous coaches around, his name is Coach K. He, until recently, has played his last game, I think a few weeks ago, for Duke. He was the head coach for 42, 43 years. And his background is in the military. So they asked him, why do these kids play for you over and over again, and they come back and they become your assistant coaches, and this big network of these Duke players? And it comes back to what I was talking about, having a deep relationship. When people get that you care at a deeper level, they hear you differently. And when I coach business owners and they bring the same scenario, I mean, I'm being respectful, Ralph, and these are some basic ground rules to work here and so that you can prosper, and this is for your benefit. They don't always hear you that way, and when they get defensive or they don't follow through and keep their word or keep agreements with you, as I like to say in my business, it has to do with, at some level, you're at a relationship with them. And then it becomes your challenge to figure out who you need to be for that type of personality, for that type of person. And one of the things that this coach, Coach K, everybody knows Coach K, he does, and also Pete Carroll, he's a head coach for the Seattle Seahawks, he meets with every player they draft. He meets their family. He goes to their neighborhoods. He understands or tries to get a deep understanding of what's your story. Everybody has a story that's different than your story. And oftentimes, until you get to what is your story, you're going to have communication issues because that story has shaped them. And so their defensiveness or whatever they're doing or being that you don't like, or like, wow, you're not listening to me, and how do I need to communicate differently? You have to take it back to better understand where they're coming from, and usually it lies in something and when they were young, or something about their culture and how they were spoken to, and authority, and their likes and their dislikes, and that takes a lot of time and patience. But once you get under that, you can speak 5 different languages, and the child or the adult will nod their head, because we get confused at language, and most people understand nonverbal more than they understand verbal, and the nonverbal is in the heart space. Right. If I just look at you and connect with you and say a few soft words, it actually makes a bigger difference than the rhetoric sometimes you hear about giving instructions, and we overtalk way too much.
Wow.
What it takes to be a good leader? How to be a good leader, you were born with it, or you can improve and adapt to be a good leader? You can learn and grow and be a good leader.
Great questions. I have like 4 to 5 points of really how to become a good leader or a better person. One is, do the job that needs to be done. What do you mean by that? Well, leaders do the job that's presented, and they do the job that needs to be done. So whatever it may be. Number 2 is step up and step back. What does that mean? When it's time to lead, you step up. When it's time not to lead, you step back. You don't need to be the leader to be the leader. I'll say that again. You don't need to be the leader to be the leader. In some instances, it requires you to be a follower. And people that can step up and step back automatically, then they're just adjusting to basically what you need of me. So number 3 is they finish strong. What does that mean? They mean what they say what they mean. They finish strong. You can count on them to get the job done. Number 4, what I love, they make work light. What do you mean? It's enjoyable to come to work. They're enjoyable to be around. When I talk about leadership equals relationship, it means I actually like holding conversation with you. They're fun to be around. They make work light.
Like the environment.
Yeah, the environment. You're laughing. It's light. If they see someone stressed, how can I help? Is everything okay? You seem overwhelmed today. Can I jump in? They make work light. And then the other thing is they have a vision. They have a why. They have a cause. They have a purpose. And they're very clear on that. And I find that people that are very clear on their cause, their why, and their purpose, and it's not cliche. You can see it in who they're being and what they say and their body language. And when people have that, that's leadership.
Amazing. Wow.
Something interesting I would add to leadership. I was about to say something and I forgot.
Okay, let me add this until we remember. Let me add this one on yours, on your answer. Most of the time, leaders serve. We serve people. What do you have to say about it?
I love it. Yeah, I have a list of 50. That would definitely be one.
We serve more than anybody else.
That is a quality of the extreme leader. They come from contribution, so they're all about serve. I mentioned earlier what is needed of you, and then let me step into that. So that's another way of saying, yeah, we humbly serve.
I remember what I was about to say now. So I think the first thing to be a leader is to know yourself. Because you cannot lead others if you can't even deal with your own emotions. And as you become aware of what triggers your emotions, and you start having self-conscious of how your mind work, how your emotions work. Because how can you have a leader that one day it's nice and calm, and the next day he's stressed, yelling at people, he's having
constant
changing mood or changing his words. He said something and the next day is completely different. He said, okay, you can have the water here on the table. And then the next day, Tico, why your water is here? I told you not to do that. So I think when you first learn about yourself and you start understanding your emotions, then you can start working in being a leader. Because I had a hard time understanding my own emotions. And I would do things that I didn't see I was doing, say things I didn't notice I was saying. And it was bad.
You know the difference between, I'm going to ask you that question, but let me tell my side. The difference between a boss and a leader. The boss lead by forcing, like imposing and forcing people by the power that you have in your hands. So if you don't do this, I'll fire you, But the leader, it leads by an example. The leader, it leads by show inspiration, show the people the way. What about you? What do you think in that same sentence?
Yeah, I call it push-pull, right? And so the boss pushes and the leader pulls.
Wow, amazing.
Right? So the boss dominates, pushes, and the leader invites, pulls. The leader is an invitation to step into what's possible. The boss is the micromanager to make you into something perhaps you're not, based on my needs. And so I love what you say. I use it, push and pull. I work on being a leader that doesn't push. I pull.
I see so for many people, being a leader is they are born with. It's so much easier, and people connect with them like without them try so hard or strive or taking a course or going to university or college for that. But like myself, me and my wife, we struggled at the beginning with our team of barbers. That we were kind of forcing. We didn't understand them, and we didn't learn the background of their history or journey, whatever happened with them in the past. But now we do. Now we're trying to understand. We're trying to engage more and understand what their dreams are. So now it's much easier. We kind of have the perfect team today because of us, because we learned how to be a good leader,
I think we changed over the years, and then that change that we work in ourselves, we got a better result with our team, because then we're better leaders, so we have better results. But we're still working on it. And I think one thing you said, some people seems like they were naturally born with that skill. They never study, but they're great leaders. And some people, like me, have to work harder to develop this skill.
We did. We had to study a lot, read a lot of books, taking courses, mentorship, and all that stuff to become who we are today. And some people just like,
were
everybody
born.
follows them.
Yeah.
You know?
What do you have to say about that? People that are naturally born leaders and people that have to develop skills to be good leaders.
Yeah, there's a debate, and there'll probably be debate until you and I are no longer on this planet. Nature versus nurture, right? Some people have this belief that you just picked it up; it's innate, and other people have this belief, and the science says this, that it's about environment, right? And so we're a product of our environment. I believe there's a little bit of both going on. I don't believe anything is innate. I think the science argues this, that what we get exposed to the most, we actually start becoming, right? We call it in psychology social contagion. You get around a person that's positive all the time. After a while, not you, the personality, not Ralph, the personality, but Ralph, the organism. Remember, we have a brain with 100 billion neurons. And so the brain is always picking up information. We call that the five senses, right? The brain is taking in information and then it mirrors it. And so you mentioned something very powerful. We had to do the work on ourselves. I call that smart growth. Smart growth says, first I do the work on me, then I do the work on my people, and then I do the work on my company. And all that happens at the same time, but the first step is you doing the work on yourself. Then that gets, we talk about social contagion, emotional contagion, it starts to get picked up. And so whatever the behaviors that you're hiding, you can't hide, because the brain picks it up automatically. That's why kids don't say as you know, they do as you do, right? They're not picking up the verbal. The brain is picking up the behavior. If you're treating someone nasty, but then you're trying to be nice to me and smile in the bar, the brain is picking that up unconsciously. And so I work a lot with people understanding how the brain works in leadership, because once you understand that, you know you really can't hide. It's going to show up. If your barbershop is failing, it's not because they're not cleaning up after themselves. It's because there's something that they're picking up from you.
For sure.
That's shaping them.
Yes, I love that.
It's funny that we always receive messages either on the barbershop page, or Tico's receive personal message from other barbers that start a barbershop, and they have a really hard time in building a team and building a culture. Some of them struggle a lot with that, like, oh, the barbers don't listen to me, the barbers are doing this, they're doing that. But after we learn through our journey to work on ourselves, we realize that whenever we have someone, not only barbers, but other business owners, talking about their team not listening, not behaving the way he wants it, the root cause is the leader of the team. Who's the leader? How he is behaving, how he's talking, how he's expressing himself, because that sets the whole culture for the company. So if I go to anywhere, a restaurant, a bakery, whatever, a doctor's office, and the receptionist treats me not so good, I observe how they treat themselves, and I observe how the boss treat them, the whole team. It's usually coming from the top, and then it goes
From
down.
above.
Yes.
And then everybody behaves that way, because if the owner treats the employees with no respect, they treat the customers with no respect either, and it just passes.
I think
It's contagious.
The word is self-acknowledgement first. Everything starts with us. I'm going to give an example of mine. I was telling this morning, there was a meeting, me and her, we were there. I had this block of learning. I couldn't learn because something that happened with me in the past, and become, qual que é a palavra? Become,
I don't know what you want to say.
become,
You believe that you couldn't learn.
I believe that I couldn't learn because things that happened in the past. I have dyslexia, and I believe myself that I was a good leader, just being a good person and give everything, the guys that work with me, but give everything to them. But everything comes to you, self-knowledge, and change our our mentality. So everything comes from us. We are the root of everything is happening in our company.
For sure.
So what are the essential skills of leadership? Give me some examples. Essential skills of a leader.
Well, the main skill, there's many, many skills. So first I want to address something that you said earlier about self-awareness. That's the biggest skill of a leader. Elevating your self-awareness and this deep understanding and appreciation you have about yourself. So That is very, very powerful, raising your level of awareness. We call that vertical leadership in my world, and that's elevating my ability to see differently. And the only way you can see differently and solve bigger problems is being aware of oneself. Number two, mindsets. People come to me and they hire me, corporations and individuals, and they go, we have a communication problem internally. Ralph, we have conflict issues going on internally. Our sales aren't where they want to be. And I said, you don't have a sales problem. You don't have a communication problem. That they're subsets of another problem. You have a mindset problem. Don't tell me you have a problem with your business, because it's not the problem. The problem is the mindset that you have or people in your organization have. And so that's the self-awareness skill number one. Mindset's the most important skill a leader can have, is being able to have an open mindset, a growth mindset, an outward mindset, and what that entails and the training that goes into it. Anything that you have in your life, whether that be your weight, your bank account, your business success, your relationship success, et cetera, it always goes back to a positive or negative mindset. So when I coach people and they show me this result, this goal they want to achieve, they think they're hiring me for the goal. You're never hiring me for the goal. You're hiring me to help you re-examine the mindset you live out of that's producing the results you have in your life now. And if we can shift that mindset on the front end, the back end or outputs is called results.
Yes, I agree 100%. When you change your mindset, you start changing your behavior, and then your behavior will change the results. I used to see always the problem. I was always looking at the problems. And then after we did a program that helped us a lot, and this consultant would, if I would bring a problem, he's like, I don't want to hear the problem. What is the solution? And then I train my brain, because it's hard to actually rewire your brain.
Process, yeah.
And then I rewire my brain to see solutions instead of looking at the problems. So if there is a problem with this bottle of water, don't look at the problem. What are the possible solutions? And then this solution-focused mindset gave me much better results in all areas of my life. But it's all here. It starts here.
Yeah, because the mindset actually trains you on how to treat people. See, if you have an open mindset and a growth mindset and an outward mindset, it's training you to treat people as people, not as objects when you run a business. And one of the biggest complaints I hear from employees is that I feel like I'm treated as a means to an end.
As a machine.
As a machine. Many times the employer, they don't see that because they're driven by scarcity. They're driven by this result. Their backs against the wall. We must succeed because they're comparing themselves to other people. That's the culture we live in. I don't have a problem with that until you understand you are the problem. And then you need to apologize and get off automatic and start caring about the people. You care about the people, they will go to war with you. You see what's going on in Europe now. You see what's happening in Ukraine, right? That's called a group of people, a country that's willing to die for something they believe in. True. And Americans, we can learn a lot from that mindset, because I think it's teaching a lot of people that call themselves leaders. They're like, wow, we're leaders until, and what the people of Ukraine are showing us, that they are leaders, period.
Yes. Can I touch on a sensitive subject? There is a lot of leaders that are narcissistic or sociopaths. They have some issues. What do you have to say about this? Because they are actually really good leaders, but they are leaders for something bad. With the end result is bad, and they also lead by lies and selling you something that will never happen, but they persuade people to follow them. What do you have to say about this?
Persuade people for their own needs.
Yeah, for their own narcissist needs. They use people to achieve something, but they're really good at leadership skills. They're really good leaders.
You ever see something like that? You ever deal with somebody like that?
Yeah, it's called America. So all you have to do is cut on the TV, any station, radio station, TV station, walk down the street. We live in a world that is full of people that are highly intelligent. You have to remember, every decade or so, the scientists say our IQ goes up by 2 deviations. What does that mean? That means you start seeing people that go to Yale, have Ivy League degrees, have traveled the world, they are masterful at the art of persuasion, but they're hypocrites. They don't value people and some of the stuff that we see in our culture. And so how do you mitigate against that reality that you have a lot of people showing up these days? This isn't the 20s and the 30s, right? There's people that are very polished in many regards. And one of the things I share with people is once you're clear about what you stand for, that's what you're going to attract. So how do you mitigate what you said? Get clear about what you stand for, because those type of people won't come into your life.
Truly believe that.
Because it's a mismatch with their brain. They're looking for people, consciously or unconsciously, that believe what they believe. So if they're living the narcissistic, the negative mindsets, the inward mindset, treating someone as an object, that's what they're out in the world attracting. And people that lack confidence and lack vision and purpose, they're not less than. I'm saying people that tend to lack vision and purpose, they will be attracted to that which they feel they don't have. But they really do have that. That's just a blind spot. And so I coach people on get around people that believe and have a big value and vision driven like you, and you're going to attract a very similar conversation. If you come from service, you're going to attract service. If you come from greed, your brain is going to be looking out in the universe and it's going to pick up anything that smells, looks, tastes, feels like greed. That's the way it works. People that are overweight and fat, take a look. They don't hang out with skinny people. And I'm not judging here. I'm telling you what the brain actually picks up. It says, I'm going to find something that's similar to me. We're copycats. That's what the brain wants to do. It wants to replicate. You heard of a virus? It's looking to replicate something that's similar to it. You want to be around wealth and abundance? That's all a mindset. Go around people that are abundant and they believe they're solution driven. They ask a lot of questions. They're curious. They treat people as people. They want to know your story. Those type of people attract abundance. And that turns into financial abundance, relationship abundance, you name it. Abundance is a very, very broad word. Sometimes we get sidetracked that it's just money. That's just one piece of abundance.
Well, me and my wife, it happened with us. We flow in one frequency that we always positive. We're trying to help people, trying to share our experience. And that's what our brain is saying. We need to be surrounded with these people. So can you give me some example of characteristics of a good leader? Like 1 or 2 or 3? Good characteristics.
Yeah, I talked to a few before. A good leader has a heightened level of self-awareness about themselves. So they know who they are. They know their blind spots. They know what works about them, what doesn't work about them, what they're still working on, right? They know that human beings by design are imperfect, so they have a very heightened level of self-awareness. The other thing about a great leader is that they get it about dignity. And this is one of the most powerful words I ever use. And so I'm going to unpack the word dignity. Dignity is our inherent value and worth. So I'll say that again. Dignity is our inherent value and worth. It's this idea, it's this belief that all human beings, regardless of skin color, race, ethnicity, religion, geography, etc., they're born valuable and worthy. And the biggest trait of a leader is to get behind that idea that every human being is born valuable and worthy. And when you believe that at the core, then you start relating to people in your environment, people that report to you, people that are your colleagues, your peers. You see them as someone that's valuable and worthy. Your brain records that. If I see you as valuable and worthy, I'm probably not going to be cussing you out. I'm probably not going to be talking down to you. I'm probably not going to be pushing. I still may, but I'm going to catch myself. And I'm going to recalibrate because you're valuable and worthy. And I always tell people the world needs more dignity.
Yes.
Can I ask you something? Let's say in a corporate environment, right? It's in a business relationship. When it's time to give up on someone from your team, when do you see that, okay, this is not working? And when is it still something you should insist, Like, let me help this person. And when you should give up and say, you know what, it's not working, and then you let the person go. How do you handle that? How do you know?
How do you analyze?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I had a formula for you. I have a context, so it's a way of going about it, and then you can fill it in, because I think it's important, because every business is different and you have a lot of different nuances. One, when I'm working with someone that reports to me, is we're setting up short goals for themselves, and I put it on them. What would success look like for you? So people hire me, corporations hire me all the time to coach their people, like I'm the problem. Like, okay, so what are you going to do for us, Ralph? I said, no, that's a consumer model. I'm a partnership model. What is partnership? It means we're in this together. So if I'm coaching someone from your organization, it's what do they want to create? I'm just a vehicle. I'm just a catalyst to listen, to bounce ideas off of, to ask them powerful questions, really, and help them become better thinkers. And so I think it's just really, really important that people set short-term goals for themselves, and they're asked by their employer or, quote unquote, their boss, what does success look like from you? And have them write it down or be at stake. When I work with people, they write their goals down, and they write their goals down.
Not you.
Not me. And so my job is to support them being responsible for the goals. And then we have our check-ins, but you wrote this down. This is now, if you want to revisit that and, well, no, Tico, I want to make some change. Okay, but you wrote the map. My job is to keep you on the map and hold you accountable. And if we see it's not working, then this isn't working. This environment isn't working for you. What can we do to support you? Because it won't work given our values of our barbershop, of our corporation. We have a set of values, and they've been violated here. We're not making you wrong. You just don't fit inside this container anymore. You're not less than. Remember dignity. See, what we do oftentimes is we make the person wrong. We treat them less than. You can fire someone with dignity. That shows that you care. What can we do to support you winning? Because you're not winning here. Now, they may hear it differently, but if you hold your ground and you come from you're valuable and worthy, it's just not working here. It's just not serving you. Is there something we can do outside of this environment that will serve you? Because this is no longer working.
Well, amazing answer.
Easier said than done, but yes.
Yes, it's always easier said than done. When you fire someone, would you always tell that person the reason? Would you be completely 100% honest, or it depends? How would you handle that? Because one time someone told me, Lydia, as a leader, if you're firing someone, you have the responsibility to help this person understand what they did wrong so they can improve. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, partially, because it depends on the mindset of the person you're firing. If that person has a closed mindset, and the definition of a closed mindset is I'm no longer open to the ideas and suggestions of others. So if the person has a closed mindset, they can't hear you anyway. Therefore, that argument wouldn't work. Now, if the person is open, then that's very, very different. Secondly, we live in a state, we're recording this in the state of Florida. Florida is a what? Right to fire state. What does that say? It says, I don't have to be in integrity and tell you. So it becomes a conflict, because a lot of leaders will say, be honest, tell the person what they're doing wrong so they can help them change their behavior in the future, et cetera, et cetera. I believe that, but you have a law in place that allows human beings that lead other people to not say what's so. And that can be very dangerous, because it doesn't give that person who's being let go or fired an opportunity to grow and to change and to develop. But and the other side would say there's a good reason for that, et cetera, et cetera. We won't debate that, but you can see if I am a football player and I'm on the bench, the coach usually tells me why I'm on the bench.
Yes.
If I'm in business and I work for your barbershop and you're saying it's not working, but then you just say, I don't have to tell you why I'm letting you go, I'm probably going to take whatever didn't work here to another environment. And that's not treating that person like he's valuable and worthy. But if you believe he's valuable and worthy, then yes, Florida has a right to fire you. But I'm still going to let you know Now, this is Ralph. Every business owner can do whatever they want to do. I always tell the person why they're being let go, what's not working, and at the same time, I want you to win, but you're just not winning here.
Perfect answer. Me and my wife, we own the barbershop, and before we fire someone, we analyzed. Been months behind we fire someone. We're trying to understand why. We're trying to help. We're trying to guide them, make some questions to understand. We don't just fire people. What are the benefits in a company or the impact of a good leader in a company for the good way, for the better, for the best of the company? What are the impact of a good leader inside a company?
The impact of a good leader inside the company is multiple. I mean, we talk about mental health, right? Mental health is at an all-time low these days, right? And so, a good leader increases mental health inside organizations, increases people's worth, increases the abundance people can make, right? We think that what you do at the workplace doesn't necessarily have a bearing when you leave. It does. And so a good leader actually makes the world a better place because the employee is taking home those traits, those mental states, that positivity or negativity in that environment out into the world. Their kids, their coworkers, people they associate with, right? And so, you're really, as a leader, you become the extension of someone else's life. And so when you get that one person can affect the next 1,000,
That changed the whole.
you're a little careful about, I had a bad day, or I'm fighting with my wife today, or I just want to go off because I quote unquote I can. It just takes a deeper meaning.
One thing I see a lot in our industry, not barbers, just barbers, but hairdressers, beauty professionals. I see that sometimes the team, the employees are frustrated with the owner where they say, oh, he's taking 60% of the money I make. They're taking 50, whatever is the percentage. They feel like they're being robbed. They feel like, I'm not taking anything back. Like, you take my money. Why would you say they feel that way?
Well, this is a little deep, and it's rooted in psychology. It's called part of it's called the self-determination theory, and the self-determination theory says that we have these intrinsic motivators, and one of the intrinsic motivators is autonomy, independence. People want to be in control. Well, what does that imply? That implies that I'm in control of everything. That means the slice of the pie, everything. And when human beings unconsciously or unconsciously feel they're not in control, you're going to get some pushback, right? You could say, I'm going to give you 90, and I bet you a group of people will say, no, I want 95. I mean, that sounds a little absurd, and maybe it is in the wrong example, but I've done it. 30 isn't enough, 40, 50, 60, 70, and it has to do with this idea that people don't want to be controlled. And so what's the opposite of then I'm in control, meaning whatever offer you give me, I'm going to push back.
Okay, that explains. So you would say something more within that person, that the way their brain is wired, and not necessarily something that the owner of the place is doing wrong?
Yeah, and
It could be both.
It could be again, if the owner is coming from it as a dictator, that you're a means to an end, so you're an object to me, and speaking that, then you are a percentage. Then I'm going to fight and want a bigger percentage. If I'm going to be an object, I want to be the biggest object. So it really has to do with how it's presented. If the owner is coming from a partner and is transparent, right? This is what it takes to run this business. Now, this happens at the hiring. This happens at the onboarding process. I coach a lot of business owners, and they're not always telling the truth, and they have a story as to why. And then I tell them, well, there's your story, because now you're 6 months into this, 90 days, 120 days, and you're having this pushback, and that pushback then begins to affect other people. So the problem now becomes a virus. And then it begins to have a major effect on other people, and that's when the backstabbing and the gossiping and all that kind of stuff, versus being up front here's how we run our organization. This is the model, and let me explain the model. And we're asking for your buy-in. And again, that comes back to the values of people that own the company, right? If you have 5 good apples and 2 bad apples, eventually you're going to have 3 bad apples and 4 bad apples, right? You've got to have the majority of your force operating from vision and purpose and these values called dignity, integrity, partnership. And if you're going to take a player that really shouldn't be there, but he can cut hair or she can really do well because she's so uber talented or he's so uber talented, but they lack communication skills, they lack empathy, they lack keeping agreements, they lack integrity, they have a closed mindset, a fixed mindset. And if you actually think your lone wolf is going to make your company successful, you're wrong. And people get this illusion of, Apple's so successful. And, what Steve Jobs did, he changed the world. And if you read the biographies that have been written, he operated like a dictator at times, and he pushed people and very controlling and manipulative. That's documented. That's written about. And yes, that may have worked then in the 80s, in the 90s. We've evolved. Remember, human beings have different ideals and values now, right? And so we are changing, and you see this culture now more of, they say people are sensitive. They're not sensitive. They're waking up that I'm no different than you. And that I care about winning just as much as you, but there's a different way to do it called valuing each other.
That goes into the next subject, this new generation. As you're saying, right, before the way companies would run and treat their employees were completely different. They would say, hey, do this, and you get paid. That's it. They didn't treat you with so much respect. They didn't value your opinion, how you feel. And now it's a completely different society, a completely different era. How can you be a good leader for this new generation of people? What should be adapted? Since you've been working so long with this, I think you had the opportunity to deal with both sides, the older generation and the new generation. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I do an exercise when I take on new clients. They're hiring me for a number of things, and I always start off with this exercise. They look at me like I'm crazy half the time, and the exercise is called "What's Your Story?" So they may call me in to do mindset work, or they want to increase sales, or they want to resolve conflict, whatever it may be. I'm a speaking coach, so I support people on speaking powerfully, et cetera, et cetera. But I always start off with the exercise, "What's your story?" And What's Your Story has 3 components. Everybody has 3 minutes, and you have a minute to share 3 defining moments in your life. When you were young, middle, and where you are now, give or take. 3 life-defining moments, how these moments shaped you positively, even if it was a failed divorce, even if it was bankruptcy. What's the defining moment that's helped shape you to the man or woman that you are today? And then everybody else has to take notes. They have to take notes and learn Tico's story. What hurt him? What are his pain? What are his the exciting things? Was it college? Was it the birth of his kids? Was it the barbershop? Everybody writes notes, and then when I'm done speaking after 3 minutes, my team gives me what they think I said. Because oftentimes, what I'm saying may not line up with what people are hearing. But it also says maybe what I'm saying, I've never heard it from myself, because we don't always hear ourselves speaking, which is why they hire coaches. One of my jobs is to help you hear you so that you can change your thinking. I'm not here to change your thinking. I'm not Tico. But if I can repeat back to you, if I can ask you questions about what you said, then you clarify your own thinking. And so that exercise of what's your story, you start understanding why this person is abrasive, why he pushes sometimes, why he or she's so defensive, why they're so all over money versus understanding money follows value. But if they were raised that money, and don't worry about value, now you know, okay, I get to change his perspective. He's got it a little backward, but that's okay. That's his model. I need now to show him
adapt
what our model is. But at least you know that. If I know this person's a killer, now I know you're a killer. probably not a good fit for the barbershop, or you're a womanizer. We don't stand for that. I'm not speaking for your organization. I hope you don't. But do you understand what I'm saying? Oftentimes we hire people with this luggage and baggage, and we don't know the story until it's payday or until you're stealing from me. I'm not getting the percent. Where does that come from? Oh, we didn't understand this person does. They have different values than we do.
Can I share a story? I had a barber that he wouldn't accept any type of correction that if I would talk to him, hey, listen, can you please do this, do that? This is not working. He would be really upset and really angry at me. And I thought, oh my God, what did I do wrong? I thought it was personal with me. But then learning more about him, I noticed he had issues with his mom and with his sister. So I noticed he had issues with women. So after that point, I learned like, it's not with me, it's not personal, but I won't be able to help him because he has issues with women in power. And then every time I had a situation, I would ask Tico to talk to him because I wouldn't create this uncomfortable situation between me and him. So I would ask Tico, can you please talk to him? I noticed this and that. And then he would listen to Tico, but he wouldn't listen to me. He had problems with women demanding or saying something, being in the power position.
Might be back in his background when he was
A kid.
Maybe like a belief, right?
Yeah.
That might be his mom was very
Controlling.
restricted or something like, and he creates that defense. So what do you?
Say about that.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. We find that a lot, right? And it happens the other side too, right? You get women that a guy, I can't speak to me, but then, so you could be telling me the same scenario, but it would be reversed, right?
Yes.
And so I hear both. And again, it comes back to understanding the story, trying to get a hold of the story on the front end and see if that story can fit inside your vision for your barbershop. So if you're running the show, well, if you're trying to scale what you're doing here, that may not work in the future. So you got to figure out what you're willing to compromise. So, okay, he's got some issues from the past with women, but if we're scaling and we're trying to grow to another 5, 10, 15 barbershops, I can't keep saying Tico line 5, Tico line 15. At some point, it has to begin with the hiring practice of asking questions and seeing if you can get and seeing, does this person have gender issues from the past? And do we have anything in place that we can address that on the front end? And maybe not. Not every organization is a learning organization. You're starting to see that now, personal development. When I was coming up in the 80s, you had to go watch Tony Robbins. They weren't skilled. HR was mainly hiring, firing, some policies. It's changed a lot now where business owners now have empathy and mindsets and they want people to win. That wasn't always the model. It's starting to be more and more now, which is great. It used to be the small minority, the best companies to work for. Remember that? We still have. Now you're starting to see more companies that people really want to work for.
Oh, what are the in one word or a sentence? What are the most important role of a leader? You can say one sentence or like the most important role of the leader.
The most important role of a leader, I would say, would be empathy.
Empathy, one word.
Would be empathy.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, being able to
Feel what they feel.
Yeah, and one step further, I try to get in their world. Just try. It's not challenging. I didn't grow up in Brazil. I don't know what it was like, Tico, when you were 17 coming to America. But try to get inside that world and have some empathy on what was that like and create relationship. And that's why in corporate America, they were doing these happy hours nonsense. I'm all for that and ropes courses and team building. But the best team building is bringing somebody out and just breaking bread and, and just talking and do it regularly. Stop waiting every quarter. We're going to go to a ropes course and do go-karts, or now they're doing axe throwing and what have you. Why aren't we doing that daily? Like, how are you? How was your weekend? How was your Easter? How was your Ramadan? How was your Passover? How are the kids? How's the business going? Like basic questions. Hey, you seem kind of tense today.
How can I help you?
You need some help? What's up? What's up, homeboy? Or hey, how are you? Like, hey, what's going
Small
on?
things that become big.
Yeah, we don't do that enough. Just checking in. How are you? Everything okay? Yeah, just crazy. I'm kind of struggling. Okay, cool. Anything you need?
But what happened, the business owner or entrepreneur, we got caught up in a lot of overhead overhead costs, and we have all these things to do, like the organization, the strategy, paying bills, the strategy to grow. And then as a business owner, we might forget about empathy sometimes, or we didn't develop that skill. It's hard to develop empathy. I think it's easier for whoever been come from a um, very humble environment when you're a kid, or experiences that you had. I think it's easier for someone develop that skill that someone that is not humble at all. So what about like,
I don't think it has to do with humbleness. I think it has to do with the environment for sure. The Your childhood affects a lot, because if your parents they didn't have empathy with anybody, you probably won't have. And then when you're an adult, it's harder to change that. It's possible. I can say that I changed a lot about that.
well, it happened with us because we are so involved in paying the bills and creating strategy at the beginning of our business.
But it doesn't have to do with empathy, though.
yeah.
We're too busy
Too busy to
focusing on
focus.
other things, and we didn't nurture our people because we're too busy. Oh my God, we gotta pay the bills. We gotta bring clients. We have to clean the shop. We have to do the marketing. We have to do this,
Then
and
we
we
forgot
forgot
about this other
about
side.
the people. It's not related to empathy.
Okay.
Empathy, I think, it's. What do you think about developing this empathy?
Yeah, it's interesting. 'Cause I think we're kind of saying the same thing. There's some nuances going on here, which is interesting. So, yeah, empathy is a skill that can be developed. We know it's like any skill. Speaking is a skill, writing is a skill, empathy is a skill, right? It's an emotional state that produces the biggest results, but is often the hardest to develop. And like anything, the earlier you learn it, like any skill, the easier it becomes to practice. So I think we need to get away from, well, one skill is no. If you do something repetitively over and over again, regardless whether you're being a lawyer, nurse, engineer, barbershop owner, entrepreneur, if you're doing the same patterns over and over again, you may not go to the Olympics, but I bet you're going to be really, really, really good. But the other thing about humility is that people that I have experienced that have large amounts of empathy, they tend to be very humble. So you'll see that trait of humility inside of empathy. Now, our business was struggling. You were in scarcity. You were focused more on staying alive. So we call that scarcity. And somewhere you forgot that this business is about people, because you got caught up comparing yourselves to the society that's about comparing and about surviving and about paying in accounting FIFO, LIFO, and profit and loss statements. The profit and loss statement, folks, is the person you're serving. And when we get that right, when you get the culture right, profit and loss takes care of itself.
100%.
Remember,
Wow.
when you get that right, that it's about the people, the checkbook and this process in place, and you got to punch in and cross this T and that T, that's called granularity. Get the culture right, and everything takes care of itself.
I truly believe that.
100%.
How to start? Where to start? Where looking for to become a better leader for? Let's give the example of a barbershop, okay? Barbers, not they feel like, they are kind of what's the word when they work for themselves, when they feel like, what's the word that he just said?
So the barber industry has this culture of being independent.
Autonomy, right?
Autonomy. That's the word.
That's built into our wiring as
Exactly.
humans, yes.
And that's why a lot of people pursue this career. I'll be independent. I work for myself. I take care of my schedule. I work when I want. I do what I want. They like that freedom.
And barbers, the highest degree we have, most of us, it's the high school diploma, okay? But many things come with, since we have all these opinions, different people, different opinions within a barber shop, how to become, where to looking for to become a better leader for your barbers, for your people that work for you? How do I start?
We're in what we call the shared economy, right? So that was a word that came up about, 5 or 10 years ago, and that's basically independent contractors. All right, we call it we have funky words in America. It's called the shared economy, where I want flexibility. I want to do my own thing, but I also want to work. I want to get paid a lot of money. I don't want to have a whole lot of rules. So again, we have evolved as human beings, and it's up to us as the boss, quote unquote, to kind of understand the various changes. And so one of the things to understand that you're getting a different type of person. They're not less than. You got to understand this word I'm saying. They're just different. So how do I adjust to difference is the question. Not he's wrong, no, they're just different. Because remember, in the 70s in America, they were running around at Woodstock doing drugs.
Yes.
They were just different, right? Because the drugs produced the iPhone. Last I heard, Steve Jobs, they were doing all kind of crazy things, and now we have this. And so now we have a new generation. They're just different. So how do you make that adjustment to somebody that wants to run their own show? And the one thing I give advice on all the time, because I had this a lot in the last few years, is to know that Reid Hoffman, he sold LinkedIn to Microsoft for $25 billion. He wrote a book, and he talks about how we need to have contracts now with new employees. This Generation Z or Y, whatever we are now, we need to have contracts. Where in Florida, you don't have a contract. Remember, right to fire state. So that basically means I'm the pusher, right? And you don't get to pull. And what Reid is saying, that we need to have contracts where I go to a young person, the barber, and I go, okay, what's your goal? Most young people now are looking, as you look at their resumes on Indeed, LinkedIn, they're leaving every year look, they're moving. When I grew up, wasn't the case. So that's different. And what Reid is saying is you need to go, you're going to be cutting hair for how long until you want to run your business? And while you're here, what's it going to take for you to give me 150%? But you got to mean it versus the greed. Oh, he's good. Oh, he only has this degree. He only has a diploma. So a lot of people that I know, they think you can't go anywhere. You need me more than I need you. That's the fundamental problem. Then they don't even trust you. You got to come in going, okay, what do you need to win? What are your long-term goals? Look at the rap world. When I was growing up, that was taboo. Now it's $1 trillion industry. And what rappers are really, really good, this is slang, so follow me here. Your viewers will understand this. They always talk about putting my homeboy down. What does that mean? Let's talk about Dr. Dre, the billionaire, right? Beats, Dr. Dre, Eminem, right? Snoop.
50 Cent.
50 Cent, yeah. He put them down. He knew most entrepreneurs want to what? Have their own label. You talk about a profession that's entrepreneur-driven, become a rapper. They never want to be part of a band. They want to run their show. And so Dr. Dre already knew this. He told 50 Cent and Eminem, how long are you going to be with me? How many records do you want to do? I know you're going to go on your own. I want 5%, whatever it's going to be. You're going to, first of all, I believe in you. You're going to be a rock star, Snoop. And he told him, you're going to blow past me. What support do you need on the front end? What can we put in place? Because the rest is history. And you saw Super Bowl, they all come back. Now, in corporate America, people leave, they don't come back. They hate their boss. He destroyed me. It was like they don't speak to each other for 20. In that industry, now rap has their issues, but many, they let them go, but they actually say, how do I have you win? Why you're cutting here? What can we do to support you? And how long do you see? And what do you need to learn from us? Now, they're going to come in skeptical because they've been treated as less than. They don't have higher degree. So you got to really build a new culture going. Now, you may want to be here for the long haul. You'll identify that. You'll see the traits. You'll see people that say, "No, Tico, I'm in it." But a lot of people in your business, I see them all the time. They're moving to different barbershops. They're not less than. They're just largely misunderstood. And the company that gets the model right, and I don't think there's many models out there, and I hope that you're the model. You're going to build the next, as you say on your website, you're building the next generation of barbers, of humanitarians, of entrepreneurs, and at the same time, you're benefiting because you're training first class. But you know this culture, like in the rap industry, they're not sitting around like the Beatles. This isn't the Beatles. This isn't the Jackson 5. Even they didn't stay for too long, right? So people are moving on. You've got to get what you can get out of them, but it's a two-way. I'm giving you 100%. You're giving me 100%. And after a time, I know you're moving on, but your pipeline, your bench is so strong here. Most barbershops don't have a strong bench. You're trained the next. That's why we have the G League in basketball, right? You have these different leagues. But what about in business? We don't have benches. So we go to grad school, you have an MBA. That model is changing where they're less Google, less MBA, less advanced degree, more empathy, more psychological safety. Are you safe to be around?
Yes.
Are you safe to be around? Are you a multiplier? Are you going to champion me? Are you going to stand for me when I'm imperfect and help me become better and set some rules? Young people want rules, and they want to be held accountable. They may not like them, but these are the rules here. And after 3 strikes, we're going to look for you to move on, but we're going to do it with dignity. But that takes a lot of money and effort on the front end, and a lot of business owners don't want to put the sweat equity in to developing people because guess what? It's draining. It takes a lot from you psychologically, mentally, emotionally, financially. But the back end is financial freedom, traveling the world, vacations.
That's true.
Yes.
That's so true. What you said about being emotionally dragged, sometimes that's true. I think maybe you can relate. When you're helping people, you give your all, and not always you have a good result. And sometimes you get frustrated because I'm just trying to help you and I'm not achieving and then you feel, dragged because you're giving so much. Sometimes I feel dragged by trying to help people so hard, and it's hard to deal with this in the long term. In this new generation, I feel sometimes because of the world we live in, they expect instant gratification. Right, Tico?
Yes.
And then it's hard to show them that it takes time to build something. It takes time to achieve results. How would you advise business owners to deal with this new generation that is looking for instant gratification? How do you treat them? How do you hold them accountable? Because they just move from one job to another job to another job. They have no patience.
2 ideas here. First of all, we live in this illusion that you're going to have a hit record. You're going to go viral. Okay, so that's part of the culture. That's called a pandemic. That's in Europe. That's in Asia. That's in America. That's in North America, South America, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not isolated to Florida. That's an illusion because the data says less than 1% of anything goes viral. So do your own homework. That means the likelihood of you going viral is not great, okay? So we got to get that illusion out of the way. And it's not going to go away, right? That's what people are born into when they're really, really young. They get the phone, the iPhone. They're watching TikTok, or if you go to Asia, you got WeChat. I mean, every country's got their own social media, and you're only seeing the glamour, the Oscars, all that good stuff. So that's an illusion, but it's not going away. And so the second idea is, given that's not going away, and we know that's an illusion, is people that own businesses need to build their teams. And meaning you build your team where you have enough people that can work with you so that you don't get drained. And what I often find when I'm coaching people, they hire me when it's too late. They're already burnt mentally. And what they need from me then, even though they're hiring to be saved, is I give them a reboot. We need to create your vision. What's your why? We need to put the business on hold. We need to reboot you again. You've lost your way. And it's hard, it's humbling, because you just think I'm gonna come in and pay a few $100 and route. No, it doesn't work that way. We have to together rewire your brain, and that takes thousands and thousands and thousands of hours, just like you're training to be an Olympic athlete. And that's humbling, because again, we just want to press the button, give me the pill, the blue pill, the red pill. That's not reality. It's called the Matrix. Okay? What reality is you get out there, you swing the bat. And the reality of it is, to go to the World Series, to be a Hall of Famer, is to be a 300 hitter. The reality is you're going to fail 70% of the time. And can you wake up every morning knowing you're going to fail 70% of the time and still get up swinging the bat? If you can, hire that person.
Wow.
And that's what I look for on my team.
If you're afraid to fail, you're never going to succeed. Failing, it gives you the power of understanding. If there's anyone that are listening to us right now, barbershop owner, okay, or salon owner, they having a problem within their shop or salon, like with their team, with their financial, they're having a trouble right now. So what you looking for now? It's a coaching, it's a book. Can you just give me an idea or an advice for everybody that is listening to us right now? How they start looking for, what they should looking for?
Great question, Tico. Because people learn different ways, my knee jerk is I read, right? I'm a voracious reader. I read 50 to 80 books a year, but not everybody likes to read, right? So there's videos, there's a lot of different ways to learn. So I tell people, look, find ways to grow. But the biggest thing in your industry, and I've been doing some research for this podcast, is I have this idea of, and you kind of have that going on here, is creating a network of like-minded individuals that believe in I'm going to fail 70% of the time, and that they know the business. Rappers respect other rappers more than they respect Lil Ralph the coach. Notice the most successful basketball coaches today are former players, right? The old model was somehow you're this awesome coach, but you really didn't play that well. You're starting to see the gentleman from University of Michigan, DeJuan Howard. You're seeing the gentleman from North Carolina. These players that are now leading their teams to the Elite Eight and to the Final Four. And I think it's true in any business. I'm going to identify with you and listen to you differently if I believe you've been in the trenches with me. And so you need to develop yourselves in a way where you're offering more psychological support of these individuals that are different. They're not less than. There's a different generation, and with that generation and that industry comes a different education level. So how can you cater to the education level versus making the person wrong by what you're doing or being? Build your model around the person you have today and what do they need. They need people in the business. They maybe need role models. Bring coaches in. Hey, we're going to bring Ralph in. Take them out somewhere. Start asking questions. You want to make a lot more money? We got some financial literacy courses. We'll bring people in. Young people like the human interaction. They play enough video games, or they're already on LinkedIn and Twitter and everything else and streaming. I find that bringing a person in that they can relate to, that's fought that fight, that's struggled, that's been broke, been evicted, a separate household, maybe some of the guys have been in and out of get. Like, you got to get inside that world, because that's the talent. The talent you already see, but what kills the talent is that flame inside that needs to be nurtured, and that's the challenge. I don't have an answer. I have an idea, because I know if leadership equals relationship, if you follow that line of thinking, then what would it be like to add more relationship to my model to better develop people? And then how would I put that, and who would I bring in? Because if leadership equals relationship and relationship equals value and value equals money, I'm on fire now. Then I need to keep building relationship within the team.
All your answers were on point. I bet this, I know this episode will help a lot of people understand this side of leadership, not understand just the mechanical and the technical part. Mr. Ralph, thank you for coming out, man. I was sitting here like just learning, and everything you say I will apply in my life. Thank you for coming out to the Black Belt Barber podcast. Was amazed. Thank you for your time. And
do you want to share your website, your Instagram, so our viewers can find you?
Yeah, I want to share
something.
Yeah, I want to share two things. First of all, I'm Ralph Campbell. You'll find me. Now I say my handle is Ralph Campbell, and you will find me. I'm on all the social platforms. I appreciate the two of you. I appreciate your humility. I appreciate you being humble. I appreciate your openness to learn. And I can tell by who I have spoken to already and watching your social media presence, you come from a special place. And my coaching, this is free coaching to you today, is stay there. And if you take away anything, take two things away. Money follows value. Leadership equals relationship. And the world needs more dignity. Money follows value. Leadership equals relationship. And the world needs more dignity. And if you too can play with those ideas and nurture them and cook them like a good soup or a good fish and fry them up, you're going to be very, very successful, because most people have it twisted. And I am just empowered. And the last thing I'm going to end with is my why. I think every barber that you hire, and if you two don't have one, you need to create your individual why. This is why you get up out of the bed. This is why you're willing to strike out 70% of the time. My why is to make gentle the life of this world through the practice of dignity, our inherent value and worth, so that together the difference we make for each other can never, ever be erased. To make gentle the life of this world through the practice of dignity. And that's why I coach. I want the world to be a gentler place.
And I admire you for that. And continue to do what you do. I'm like, the word is, I'm stumped with so much education here right now.
You mentioned about the why, right? So Tico shared in the other episode, you want to share again, like he only found out his purpose in life when he was 29 years old, right, baby? You want to talk about it?
Let's see if you know me.
Of course I know you. I know you better than your mom. So he only found out his purpose at 29 years old after opening a business, after starting teaching people. That's when he found a real passion to help, because he saw the transformation on those people's lives after he taking the time just to spending a couple hours with them and giving them guidance. And I also found my purpose, which is help people through education, through information. Because one day I was on the other side I still look for coaches and mentorships. It helps me a lot to develop myself as a human being. And then I developed the other areas of my life too. My relationship with my husband, my relationship with my employees, the business we're building. It helps so much. So I found out that my purpose is to help people through all these experiences I lived, the knowledge all these things we've been learning through the years. Sometimes when I sit with a business owner for 10 minutes, I notice that even though I feel that I don't know, I don't know anything, but some words, some phrases I tell them when I share my experience, it helps them so much and it makes a huge impact on their life. Then I found a purpose, helping people through information, through education, and I never feel tired of waking up every day and working so hard. Because when you find your why, of course, sometimes I get frustrated. It's normal. Sometimes like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. But then the next day I wake up, yes, I can do it because I have a why. I don't care if it didn't work for this person, it worked for the next. And if I help one single person, it's already enough. I want my life. Like if I can help one person.
I think. Sorry.
That's fire there.
Sorry.
That's
I'm
fire
done.
there. Woo!
I love helping
That's
people.
what I'm talking about. That's fire right there. That why should be right there on the screen.
Yes, I love helping people. And Tico, you want to talk about it? I think we share the same why.
Her
And it
body
works
just
perfectly.
changed sharing that. Did you get this, Tico? This is
I
deep.
got it. That's
Her
very deep.
body changed. When
I
you
see.
shared your why, you got more energy, you're more vibrant. It's powerful.
Very powerful.
It's genuine. It's real.
I
It's
think-
not just saying. It's real.
It's not too late to find your purpose, but once you find your purpose is whatever makes you wake up every single day, and everything you do, all your choice, it's under that. My life, for example, is much easier now that I found my purpose. That educating people, give everything I have, to these people. So, Mr. Ralph, thank you so much, man. Your energy, it's amazing. Thank you very, very much for coming to the Black Belt Barber podcast.
Yes.
Guys, for whoever are listening or watching us, thank you very much for watching. Can you guys share this video, give it a like, give it a comment. That way we can reach more people and help more people out there with this episode. And follow me, Tico Invictus, on Instagram. Thank you very much.